Let's bring up the panel here, who most of them work with the folks that are like my breakfast socks. And I have been messing up the names of everyone that I introduce all last Tuesday, so I'm really happy to bring Angela up. I've totally forgotten.
Dan Dix.
Dan Dix. But the person I really want to bring up is someone who's really inspired me for a long time. He's a tremendous author, inspirer, and so I just want to bring out Mr. Paul Hawken.
Okay. Wow.
Didn't see that coming.
I did not see that coming. It's an old joke that he and I have, and it went over even my head in this case. So among the many exciting things that go on in the world of sustainable business, the incredibly inspiring, impactful, hopeful innovations, technologies and memes that we've been talking about for the past 3 days, there is none for me that feels more important than this notion of a circular economy. And we talk a lot about it, and as if we all understand what it is, and some do and some don't, and we're all sort of trying to figure that out. But at its core, the circular economy is what sustainable business should be about, which is about systems thinking, radical efficiency, busting through silos, innovation, and ultimately improving lives and moving the needle, and not specifically about incremental efficiency improvements, although that certainly can be part of that. And in the conversations, in the many companies, we had a lunch yesterday, and we had about 20 people, and sort of go around the room, introduce yourself, and what's the conversation about circular economy? Almost all 20 companies had some conversation that was taking place, and of all those conversations in and out of that room, and in this room and elsewhere, there's really none that's fascinated me more than that Steelcase. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that with I don't even know I was back there.
What's your name?
Did John introduce Angela Nahikian and Dan Dix, the Global Sustainability Director and the Director of End Use Services at Steelcase? If he didn't, here they are. And to talk about this vision that they have, because it truly is, while it's early days, only 7 years in the making, early days, it is, I think, a great example of what happens if we get this right. So, first of all, Angela, give us the vision of sort of what you've been talking about and what you see as what's possible.
Well, I think for me it's really exciting. As a sustainability professional working for a really long time, trying to move the needle, I think it's like many of you. These are great times, and I think that for us, sustainability has been a really good trip, but it's going to get more exciting from here. And I think circular economy, we really think about it as a manifestation of our purpose. And I know that might sound really big, but a lot of folks might think about us as a furniture company, right? And we're really a people company. And everything that we do is to advantage people, to really help them unlock their promise. And so this is about delivering on that. And I think that, like many of us who operate predominantly in today's economy, today's linear economy, we're doing a lot of research, we're delivering a lot of great things to the market, and we've got customers in the center of that development. But the one thing that we don't often do is participate actively in the life cycle of the products and environments, in our case, environments that we help to create. And they move into these environments and they start working, and there are changes that need to be made and changes that happen in their business, and they come to, we like to think about it as sort of this end of need point, end of use point, and far beyond that is the end of life for the things that we make and that people use. And so how could we bring a lot more value to that? How could we, through maybe technology integration, through different kinds of business models, really get into that life cycle and really deliver on that purpose that we're aspiring to. So that's how it connects.
So in some ways, this sounds like what you've always done, in that
Yeah.
you sell, or I guess sell furniture, and maybe a service contract. You have an arrangement with a company who needs stuff, and you bring it in, and it's you help figure out what people need to be most effective in their jobs. And at some point, they need new stuff, more stuff, different stuff. How does this change this? What's different here beyond? And you've been doing cradle to cradle design. A lot of your products have been certified by the Cradle to Cradle Institute and so on. How is this truly different and transformative?
Well, I think this is different in that maybe we have a different relationship with the customer in their life cycle, in their use cycle. You know, we might be, instead of dropping things into the place, we might be monitoring use patterns. We might be monitoring performance, well-being, collaboration, and those really critical pieces of the business engine, right? And we might be able to offer suggestions about how those might change and collaborate with these businesses, with our clients, to optimize those environments. So it becomes more performance-based than transaction-based, and we can move things in and out, we can change things. And I think for us, I think our CEO says, if we do everything right and we really make great decisions and the client makes great decisions, to assume that we're going to get it 100% right day one is really, it's sort of an ego position, because that's not likely to happen. So this is about accommodating that change and optimizing that environment to truly do what we hope to do.
Let's get this down to the customer value proposition. It sounds like what we're talking about here is that rather than selling furniture, you're going to be furnishing office that is going to, over time, change, grow, shrink, move, do any number of things, and it's going to be your furniture that you're going to be putting there, and they get to use it through some subscription or kind of agreement, and then because it's yours, you're going to want to make sure that it's designed in a certain way that it can have a circular life.
Yeah, and that we're designing real time, but I guess I would clarify that by saying, I think that for a long time we'll be selling, but I think increasingly customers are more and more interested in what we might be able to offer in terms of use. I mean, they're already asking, could we have a pay-for-use model? Because we have so much change going on that it's something that we want to look at.
So you're going from product to service, which is your area. Dan, how did you get into this? Because this is, as I understand the timeline, this goes back to around 2010. 2010, circular economy was not a thing. I don't remember when the Ellen MacArthur Foundation came in. I think it's more like 2013 or ish. And so this was predated that. So how did that conversation get going? Where did it come from within the company that it even got to this, what eventually became the circular economy?
Yeah, I think we attribute it back to our CEO at the time. We were embarking on our 100th year anniversary celebration, and
you look great, by the way.
And our CEO, we were also sort of finalizing, getting to the end of some sustainability goals that we were at, and he asked us to think about, what's that next challenge? What's that big audacious goal that we have for sustainability? And you would have thought that would have just been a challenge to Angela and her team in global sustainability, but he asked strategy, I was in corporate strategy at the time, to be engaged in that. So I think it was sort of a foreshadowing on his part, a forcing mechanism to make this more of a business conversation than just a sustainability conversation. So it evolved eventually into a CE vision, but that route or that journey just started out with a sustainability goal in mind. Along the way, we stumbled upon Ellen MacArthur Foundation and thinking about it in a circular fashion. And I think that opened up a lot of doors for us in our thinking and our vision. So that's how I got involved with it.
And so you're the global end-of-use services.
Kind of rolls off your tongue, right?
Sure, director.
We're still working on it.
Yeah, right, yeah. you're a design firm, not a branding firm, so I get that. This is obviously going to impact what you do because you're now potentially creating a service where a product used to be. Is that what's going on? Is that what you're thinking about? Is that where you come into this?
Yeah, great question. So I think the coolest part is that I had the opportunity to work from a corporate strategy standpoint on this issue, this problem, this opportunity for several years with Angela and team. And then I sort of raised my hand when it came time to develop, globalize, scale one of the components of the circular economy vision that we're looking at. And now I have that opportunity to go, kind of run that business and build it. And I think the message from a circular economy standpoint that I would share with the audience is you can't do the entire thing. It's like kind of eating an elephant, right? So you have to pick what's important to you, and we picked one component that we're going to build off of from there.
The eating the elephant metaphor is how do you do it one bite at a time?
Yeah, one bite at a time. And I think you mentioned yesterday the lunch we had when we had 15 or 20 people going around the room. Everybody in that room picked a different component of circular economy that they were passionate about and that was important to them.
Some were the end of pipe where they were taking the product and giving it some adaptive reuse or dematerial. Some were at the beginning, we're at the design phase. And I think that's interesting, Angela, because when you start to look at this, you can say, okay, we're going to turn a product into a service. Sounds simple enough. But what you're really talking about is that goes to what is the product? How does it design? What are the materials? How is it literally put together so it could be unput together? I think that's the technical term correctly. And where do you source those and who can do that labor? I mean, it gets really complicated.
It gets very complicated, and I do think that if some of the early business models that we're looking at, like handling a need that every customer has, which is what do I do with my stuff? I think if that's really the door we're walking through into the circular economy, and products are definitely the engine. Yeah. We have to think about it, and even though we've been working, a very long time to design our products such that they can be taken apart at end of life, and all of the materials, careful material choices that we make, and the deep chemistry work that we do, and life cycle assessments, all that. Designing for a circular economy is still different. It's not necessarily just designing for disassembly, it's designing for disassembly and remanufacturing and reassembly. And we're just starting to understand how close are those things. Are they the same in some cases, or are they, does that still work, or are they vastly different? And I think it's probably both, in some cases vastly different. And so we're really trying to rejigger our design principles. But yeah, it touches everything. And I think reverse logistics and different kinds of partnerships that, Dan and I are having conversations with people about. It is a very entrepreneurial kind of gig.
How big of an opportunity is this gig? I mean, is this an incremental new business that's could be as big as one of your good product lines? Is it bigger?
Well, I think anybody that you talk to, and if you go out and do some of the reading of the studies in scaling, it's multiples bigger.
Multiples of.
For us, we've done some early sketches, and I mean, we'll find out, right? I mean, we don't know. This is sketches, and I want to emphasize that. But this could theoretically double the size of our company.
You're a $3
in terms
billion
of revenues.
company.
Yes.
Yeah.
And each of these opportunities has to be fit and knitted and stitched. It was a word I heard earlier this week. Stitched together with competencies that we have and investments that need to be made. But really, a lot of it is inventorying what you already do in terms of capabilities and figuring out where the gaps are and stitching this together. At least that's been our experience. But yeah, it does. It touches everything. Operations is going to be heavy in the work that Dan does, and that's why this business is organized under our operations, our global operations.
I just want to pause and repeat that you're a $3 billion company, and you see this new business model, the circular economy, it's based on a circular economy principles and designs that could be as big as your current business. Yeah,
the sketches tell us that it could be that big. Oh. Yes.
And so does that mean it's getting the support it needs internally, that if it really has that kind of potential?
You know, I think it's a migration strategy, right? We've got to, even though that the scale could be that significant, I mean, each one of these businesses has to stand alone and connect to the next. And the great thing about Dan taking on this role and agreeing to do it is because he's worked developing the strategy. He and I have been so, you know, this is a 7-year relationship that we have right today. And that he understands how what he's building has to evolve with each of the subsequent businesses we might add, whether it's remanufacturing or subscription or other things. That means something different for this base, you know, business and scaling of capability that he's doing.
I want to get to a question in a minute, but does the pace of change frustrate you? I mean, that's a lot. You are 7 years into this, and you're getting close to, I think, if I'm getting this right, you're getting close to having a pilot version that you can then scale into an actual market offering. That's a long road to hoe.
Yeah, you know, I think because of all the research, discovery, and things that we had to do, you know, I don't think we could have compressed it. Now it's just a matter of how do we take it a little bit at a time using like lean startup methodology and, you know, ask for resources as we go along. So it's not a big bet, it's not a big investment that we're asking for.
Financially.
But proof points along the way that enable us to incrementally ask for resources and go about it that way. So I think that enables us the right runway, if you will. And so I'm not bothered by the pace yet, but I think time will tell. Right?
Patient man, woman. Elaine, let's take in a question.
Yes, so transitioning to a completely new circular economy-based model it seems really hard given what you've done so far. What are some of your biggest lessons learned so far? Like, what is your advice for others who are just starting this journey or interested in this journey?
Besides patience.
Well, yeah, and tenacity and resilience and agility and all those things. We've learned a ton. I would say we've learned a ton about how to do it in one company. And I would say, you know, all of those things are really important. Engage lots of people and learn from them. And I was reminded, and this applies here, you know who your, you know, treasury, or know your treasury organization, know your strategy organization, get really close with your new business innovation. And Rob can't be here with us today, he's on our way home, but he's a sort of the third leg in the three-legged stool. He is, you know, he faces some of the same challenges that we all face in this room, which is, you know, innovation touches everything, and he's our new business innovation leader. And I would say, you know, spend the time up front, really think it through. And that's why I think maybe we're more patient now. Now's the time we start quick stepping, because we've thought about it, and we thought deeply about it, and we understand where the hurdles are, and we have some understanding of sequencing, you know, what needs to come first, second, and third, what probably requires the deep investments, but maybe not, you know, the early wins. So I guess I would say that, you know, just really, really socialize it in your company and really connect with your purpose. I think that's key.
And I'm sure you're learning from other companies in this room, many of whom are your
Absolutely.
customers.
You got to find some advocates internally and externally. It's a giant support group.
And eventually you've got to find someone to own it, and that's a whole other piece of this. I mean, we're kind of out of time, but I just want to say that there's so many things exciting about this in terms of its potential, but what's really kind of exciting, and I really commend you for the courage to get up and talk about something that's not fully baked, that's not yet a success, may not be, you know, I hope it is, of course, but you don't know where it's going, and to be able to showcase and discuss something midstream, in process, that is not something that many companies are able to do. And the fact that through the support of your terrific CEO, Jim Keane, and that he supports this so fully, that you are out there, you know, with that. We talked a lot about courage this week. I think that is a courageous thing to do, and I really appreciate that. And I'd love you to help me in thanking Dan and Angela.
Thank you.